What's up, guys? It's Ben with 2020 election predictions. And I know I do a lot of focus on the 2020 election, but I want to do something that I don't think anyone is really doing right now is looking at the 2022 midterms. And to do this video, I'm going to make a couple assumptions. So right now, I do think that Joe Biden is going to win the White House. And based on my last Senate video, I think that it is going to be a 50-50 tie in the Senate, and that tiebreaker does go to the vice president, which I will presume to be Joe Biden's nominee for vice president. So that means the Democrats are going to control the House, the Senate, and the presidency, just like it was when Barack Obama was first elected in 2008, and just like Donald Trump was elected in 2016. It was complete control by one party. So if this is the case in 2022, I do think that it's going to be a Republican wave year. But let's just look at the Senate, because I think the Senate is easier to visualize than the House, and kind of look at, do I think that the Republicans can regain the Senate? Because I do think that the Republicans are going to have a better year in 2022 compared to 2018. Just because I think that Republicans will be more energized. The Democrats probably will get some legislation passed in the Senate, if the rules change to where it's like you only need 50 votes to pass, because the Democrats will have those 50 votes if they can get some senators like Joe Manchin still on board. So this is the current setup right now of the U.S. Senate. I'm going to make some assumptions with the Senate. So I do think that Arizona is going to flip blue in the Senate. I do think Colorado is going to flip blue. Where else? I said that I think North Carolina at this point, I think it is going to flip blue. And I think that Maine is going to flip blue, but we have one flip Republican state, and I think that will be Alabama. And right now, I still think that Steve Daines will be able to hold on to his seat in Montana. So the Senate is elected every 6 years. So let's look back at 2016, because these same senators will be up for re-election. So the 2016 Senate surprised a lot of people, especially in the state of like Wisconsin. Ron Johnson, I think the 538 models. In fact, I actually kind of want to look it up right here. They had the Democrats like doing very well in states like Wisconsin. I even think like Pennsylvania. I mean, look, it was Ron Johnson only had an 18% chance of winning, and same with a state like Pennsylvania. Pat Toomey was projected to lose as well. So I think those are the only two surprises that we have here. Other than that, everything looks good. I mean, the Mark Kirk, the Republican incumbent, did not have a chance. I mean, 2010, which was a Republican wave year too, the year that Mark Kirk got elected, it was kind of a fluke. There was a lot of conditions that were very favorable to him. The closest state in terms of raw votes was New Hampshire. Kelly Ayotte barely got beat by Maggie Hassan, and there's a lot of talks about this. If Donald Trump weren't on the ballot, if it was a different Republican, could have Kelly Ayotte kept the seat. But even the presidential race was very close in New Hampshire. And one thing that was really interesting, I've talked about this before, 2016 was the first presidential race where there was no split ticket results. So all the states in red, Donald Trump won, and all the states in blue, Hillary Clinton won. And this is increasingly becoming a trend. I've done videos on this. I can do a link to it in the description. So let's look at states that maybe Republicans can pick up, or that Democrats can pick up. So right now we have the current map as 50 for the Republicans and 48 plus 2, 50 for the Democrats. So can the Republicans regain control? So let's first look at Alaska. So I think Alaska will be interesting. I do not think Lisa Murkowski will be the Republican candidate for Senate in 2020. She voted against Brett Kavanaugh. I do think she will be primaried. And this will be the first time that a candidate with the last name Murkowski is not on the ballot or in the Senate in like over 50 years, because Lisa Murkowski's dad was the previous senator from Alaska. So I definitely think it will depend who will win the primary. Um, if the Republicans have a good challenger for Lisa Murkowski and he or she wins, I do think that the Republicans will be able to hold on to Alaska, so that won't really change much. But I think this will be a seat that Democrats will target. Alaska is very weird. It's very rural, and I mean, a lot of people don't pay attention to it on election night. But I do think Alaska is increasingly becoming more competitive. And although it doesn't have the same population as some other states, on the Senate level, population doesn't matter. It's only about the full state. Um, One other state, I'm going to mention several states that Democrats are going to target, is the state of Arizona. So this was John McCain's previous seat. But excuse me, this is a state. This is going to be a Democratic held state that Republicans can have a chance of challenging in. So there's been talks that the current governor of Arizona, who appointed Martha McSally, might try to make a run for the Senate at some point, whether that's in 2022 or 2024. Kristen Sinema um, will be up for re-election in 2024, but the winner of the special election in Arizona in 2020 will be up for re-election again, and I doubt Martha McSally will be the nominee. Right now, I assume that Mark Kelly will be the winner, so the Republicans do have a chance of picking up a seat in Arizona. Right now, I think it's unlikely because of the demographic trends and because Mark Kelly does seem to be like a strong candidate. But if there can be a lot of um, Republican enthusiasm and they can coalesce around maybe a more moderate candidate that doesn't alienate different people, maybe a Latino or Latina Republican candidate. I think that he or she could do very well in the state of Arizona, and it could potentially be a pickup. Right now, I'd probably see Arizona as a toss-up or tilt towards the Democrats in 2022. Let's see if I can even list that here. I'll just do it right here. So it's a tilt state, and I'll have Alaska as being kind of a lean state. Um, Next up, moving to Wisconsin. So right now, Ron Johnson holds it. I think he'll be very vulnerable here in 2022. Yeah, I think he'll actually do better if Joe Biden wins, which it's looking like it because there'll be Republican enthusiasm. In 2018, Scott Walker won when there was a lot of Democrat enthusiasm. So right now, I would consider this as being a tilt Republican state. Um, at large. I mean, Ron Johnson has gotten really lucky. I said here in 2016 he was expected to lose. I think Donald Trump helped him, but he even won by a larger margin than Donald Trump. Donald Trump only won by about a percentage point, and Ron Johnson won by 3 percentage points. So the polls were definitely wrong in this state. Pennsylvania is going to be another seat that the Democrats are going to challenge in 2022. I don't think there will be as much enthusiasm in the 2022 election on the Democratic side if they control every part of the government. So I do think that Pennsylvania will be a tilt or lean Republican state as well. But let's look at, are there any states right here that the Republicans think that they can pick up. So I definitely think Arizona will be kind of the number one target because there will be a Senate election here. And then I also think in New Hampshire, I don't. Maggie Hassan is not a very strong candidate. I don't think she will be the incumbent in 2022, but she barely won in 2016. And if it is a Republican wave year, that's how Kelly Ayotte got elected in 2010. If there's the similar Republican energy in 2022, I think that New Hampshire can actually lean towards or tilt towards the Republicans. Unlike Arizona, Texas, and Georgia, the demographics aren't really changing as much. And like in New Hampshire, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Minnesota, the demographics aren't changing that much. They're changing at a slower rate than some of these southern states that have increased immigration. So I do think that could be a Republican pickup. But let's also look at these states that the Republicans are going to have to defend. They're going to have to defend the seat that they won in this, assuming that they win the special election in 2020. I assume it'll be Doug Collins. I think this will be a pretty easy seat for the Republicans to defend because I think there'll be all that energy if the Democrats control every part of the House. Um, in North Carolina, it'll be really interesting. I do think the Republicans will be able to hold on to it, but I don't know if Richard Burr will be the not nominee. I have this as a tote Republican seat, just because if Richard Burr is the not nominee with his insider trading scandal, I think that will be very different. Marco Rubio, I don't think will have any trouble keeping a seat. While Donald Trump barely won Florida in 2016, Marco Rubio won it by 8 points, even though he came into the race very late because he was a presidential candidate. So I consider that to be a tilt seat. Let's look. I mean, Missouri was kind of close. I think Roy Blunt will be able to hold it just because Missouri is a pretty Republican state and everything's so partisan. Todd Young, I expect to hold on to it, and Rob Portman. Ohio is very weird, so they have a they have it split. His name is escaping me right now on the Democratic side. Oh my gosh, this is going to well, he won in 2018 by a large margin, but in Ohio they really like their incumbents, and Rob Portman is very popular senator, as is the Democratic senator from here. So I expect him to keep this seat pretty well. Other than that, Chuck Grassley in Iowa, he's pretty popular there. I expect him to win it. It's probably going to be closer. The margins in Ohio and Iowa are going to be closer, but I expect them to keep these seats. So right now, my projections for the 2022 midterms are 51 for the Republicans and 49 for the Democrats. But I think right now there's a lot more margin of error for the Republicans. You see, I have a lot more tilt states for the Republicans and not as many for the Democrats. And obviously, all of these seats are not going to be up for re-election, only a third of them. So this map is going to be a little bit misleading. But please tell me if you like this video. Please subscribe here if you haven't already. And tell me in the comments section what you thought of this video. Thanks, guys.